along the coast.
This coast, this coast, this coast, the invasion coast.
There's always been this fear of invasion, obviously.
All sorts of invasions, one after the other, perpetually.
Some of the principles of defence, for example, they don't change. And you think about defence in depth, and you think about remaining agile, maintaining a reserve, maintaining deception, all-round visibility, and you think about manoeuvre and all the other, the principles of how you would set up a defensive position don't change.
To protect a bit of land is to listen to it.
We've got quite a bad problem with crashula, Helmsy. That's been present so as long as I've been here in the last 10 years. So it's dominating a lot of the wetland areas. So yeah, that's our biggest kind of invasive species, I suppose. Yeah, we've got a few others, but we're starting to keep an eye out now for kind of what the next colonist will be, and we're on the front line, kind of here, just the channel, so close as well. So we're expecting some continental species to start kind of migrating over, as well as losing perhaps some of the perhaps more regular breeding species as well. I mean, Dungeness is a migratory hotspot. It sticks out into the English Channel, and therefore you have to kind of turn it slightly to look at it in a global view, and so it's the first bit of land that a lot of things can kind of see and rest from after having crossed kind of 23 miles of water. For any small bird, that's quite a kind of trek. So it's kind of the first bit of ground that they kind of come to.
Literally the first point, and you're like exhausted after God knows how many miles on the wing, and then you need somewhere where there's water, where there's food, where there's shelter, where there's safety, and just I guess is it.
I flew from Sudan to Lebanon and then here, and I wish to finish my dream, to do what I want. We came here and I started again. I applied to interior architecture. The reason why I want to do it because I want home. I want to build for people place to feel safe inside their house. Yeah, just that's why. Because I feel like I enjoy when I do something for people or do something they feel safe in it.
It looks like the castle was in a silly place, but it was at the edge of the sea. But as the land built up and the sea retreated, it became impossible for cannon fire to reach out to boats. So originally they raised the cannons up higher in the castle. So they went from being, at ground level to up and then up and up. They filled all the bastions in with shingle to get the cannons as high as they could, so that the fire could reach out to ships in the water if it needed to. But eventually the sea just got too far away, and that's when the castle was decommissioned.
It's hard to imagine how anybody contemplated siting several nuclear power stations on the most mobile piece of Britain. It's complete madness. But it's operated safely by moving hundreds of thousands of cubic metres of shingle from one side of Dungeness to another. It has to be continued virtually forever to to protect the power stations. Some of these decisions do look odd. It looks odd that you continue to move shingle every winter from one part of the coast to the other. It's interesting contemplating that without that management of the shingle, there would be no nature reserve here.
Hi Alistair, it's Matthew Pardo calling from EDF Communications. We spoke the other day very briefly. You're probably aware how the situation involving Dungeness has changed a bit over the past few days. If you still would like to talk to us about the project that you're talking about, do give me a call back and I'll see what we can do. But I will just say that at this time, the whole focus of the station, the whole focus of the team on the station is very much on things there. And aside from a handful of fairly significant media interviews we've done this week, we're not really talking to other people at the moment and talking to off station. Not to say it couldn't be done. If you do want to give me a call, you've got the number, give me a shout, we'll see what we can do. But at this time, I'm afraid I may not be able to offer very much. All right, thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Well, I don't like seagulls, that's for one. Seagulls are twats. Absolute twats. Because they obviously go for your food, innit? Whenever I'm like having a muffin or something, I'm like, oh wait. He goes, fuck off. But yeah, I like birds, because obviously, you know, every living thing is important. Because obviously, if it's living, we can see it move and they can see us. That you're well on. You're moving. You're with me in this fucked up world.
I would love to be a local, but you have to have been born here really to be a harbour duck. That's what they're called. We're a newcomer, and we've only been here 7 years, so we're very, very new. But we've got ourselves involved. I worked on the village hall committee, helped run a couple of fetes, and worked for the RNLI. So I suppose I'm local in the sense of my enthusiasm, but not necessarily being part of the place yet.
You never know. You're always on the edge that your pager could go at any moment, and that's it. You're off. You never know what you're going to go to. You could go to a missing child at Camber. You could go to a broken down vessel. We went on one where we were looking for a rig, an overcrowded boat in the water, and we ended up searching all the way from Rye to Eastbourne. So we did a whole big long single track search on one line. You're there in someone's time of need, and it's you or the unthinkable could happen. They could lose their life if you weren't there.
So there were very harsh policies brought in under the Labour government, and there was a harsh rhetoric from Tony Blair and one Home Secretary after the other. And then when the Tories took over, it became harsher, and Theresa May in 2012 had this very famous interview where she said, I want to make a really hostile environment. That hostile environment, what that meant was that she brought in legislation in the next 2 years after that, which meant that the whole population, the British population, got co-opted in to be part of the border regime. So I was a university lecturer at that time, and I found myself having to chase up so-called foreign students and discriminate, in a sense. I had to ask them to do things I wasn't asking British students to do. And that was across the board, in education, in hospitals, and so on. So that has become very interwoven into a society. We're all being required to act as border guards.
The decision to build fences to try and keep foxes and badgers away from the ground nesting birds is really an important step that was made before I came here, and I've continued that. I've seen the benefit of that, and fortunately that also provides areas that are protected from human disturbance. You can't have 500,000 visitors to a place like this without there being some impact on the wildlife. And every bit of this shingle in front of us is bright orange because people have trodden on it. If there was no human footsteps here, this would all be covered in lichen and small plants.
I think it's a machine gun. I don't know. All I know is like it's for World War II bungalows for or what they call, was it bunker? Sorry, that's it. Not bungalow. Probably to either smoke in or either just be scoutsmen for the English teas. They can still use these, because there's been so many fucking people coming through here on boats. I don't know if I think there's been a couple of boats, but I think it's in Dover way actually. There's been a couple of boats. And same, there's been a couple East Sussex, right East Coast, like somewhere down there. There's been like cocaine stations in like blue bags, like looking like fucking sailor bags. They look weird, like wrapped up. And I saw that in the news as well. I think it was on the Snapchat news actually. I was like, whoa.
I love oyster catchers. This time of year they're nesting. They just make a little scrape in the shingle and their eggs are really well camouflaged amongst the stones. They're really vulnerable if they're not within the fences. And so if you go near, they will make it known that you're upsetting them, and they will, the parent birds will try and sort of entice you away. Avocets are similar, but avocets are quite vicious. They will really be aggressive if they think their chicks are at risk. And we've seen our avocet numbers build up here, which has been lovely. It's a beautiful bird, a really elegant bird to see. But their aggression might frighten away some of our more vulnerable birds as well. So everything here is trying to find a happy balance for everything.
Just my family really protective about in Rye, because obviously when they're old enough to go out and drink, they're obviously going to be on the loose of having fun and all that shit, drinking for the first time, actually being of age. But yeah, that's the only, and my friends obviously, the veterans and that, because they were getting deep shit.
I need to protect them. My family, yeah. The only one I have here. So I need them to be happy, and just I want to see them in future, like in better place.
One of the last things that I did in the army was I ran live firing ranges on the Lid ranges for another battalion who were due to go out to Afghanistan. Lid is restricted to small arms, so you're not firing anything above 7.62mm, which is the machine guns that you hear when they're going. Because they fire out to sea, it means that the range danger area is very simple to maintain. Anything that goes past the target will just go out to sea.
And we're sitting here looking at it, and it looks so beautifully flat and peaceful and welcoming. I think the biggest threat is this idea that this coastline has to become a barrier rather than what it is, which is a beach and a sea with the rest of the world really not very far away. But I think that's the huge danger, is that it becomes a defended border because of a fear of what might come across it. Yeah.
I like watching sea, but not swim or just to think when you're watching, you feel just relaxed and calm. Think about just I imagine my future a lot, like in 10 years or 20 years, where I can be and what gonna happen to me maybe.
Future, the near future, the next 40 years, the future looks okay for this area. If you look forward 100 years or 200 years, I can imagine that the landscape will look very different, and it might look much more like it was a century, 2 centuries, might be 500 years ago.